Breaking news, breaking news. The ACC has until April 15th to file, to produce a public redacted version of Exhibit B, whatever, of the ACC ESPN media agreements to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this Rebel Outpost YouTube football channel with a donation. Just hit the $ with a comment and we'll get to your super chat as quick as I can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend, and explain this all to me like I was 5. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room and with your phone calls. Hopefully you give me a call to help me out, everybody. And with your phone calls later in the show, Judge Bledsoe puts down a ruling on the motion to seal. I'm going to post you the 18 pages. I don't understand much of it. I saw the little general, the moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, popped in here. Happy Friday. I not feeling all that well today. And I looked to the little general. I saw this breaking news and I said, man, I got to go live. I have to go live, especially especially when I got everybody, not everybody, but a whole lot of people upset with me yesterday when I declared the ruling in Mecklenburg County, mostly as a victory, a temporary victory, but a victory for the ACC. I think today is at least a slight victory, a very good day for Florida State and Clemson. Now you can read these 18 pages and you can say, Greg, I think you're wrong. I think your cheese has slipped off your cracker, which you probably believe anyways. But I think I'm interested to know what you all think about this. Breaking news. I'm interested to see what Florida State believes. What did they get what they want? I can't really. They got something of what they wanted. They got some movement. Let me before I get to saying thanks to you all for coming on in, I want to show you what Brian Murphy of WRAL in the Carolina put out a tweet with this breaking news. More news in the ACC versus Florida State. The judge rules that some parts of the ACC deals with ESPN can remain sealed, but some parts will have to be made public. The ACC has until April 15th to file a public redacted version. And this, so Brian Murphy went through the 18 pages, and this is what he believes, what it says. A quick non-lawyer read. The judge agrees, Judge Bledsoe, Mecklenburg County, that financial info, pricing terms, internal business strategies should be kept sealed, and that the privacy of ESPN deserves special consideration, but notes some redactions are arbitrary, inconsistent, and overboard, including the money that Florida State has received. Now, again, remember when Clemson filed in Pickens County and said, yeah, there's plain language. There is plain language. That was the words that the Clemson lawyers use. There's plain language in that media agreement between the ACC and ESPN. And if you tied it together to the grant of rights, it plainly says, it clearly says that if we, Clemson, leave the conference, we take our media rights with us. That the grant of rights is limited in scope. It's right there in the media agreement. Is this going to be part of what comes out in public view? Looking at Brian Murphy's second tweet here, I probably doubt it. But I don't know. Somebody's going to have, we're going to go through the 18 pages. We're going to go through the 18 pages, but somebody a whole lot smarter than me, which is every single person in the PATC chat room, lawyers, everybody, give me a call. Once we go through these 18 pages, give me a call. Let me know. Does this little bit of movement in unsealing some parts of this media agreement between ESPN and ACC in Mecklenburg County Court, does that mean we could possibly see more movement in Pickens County between Clemson and ACC? Or am I getting this all incorrect? Am I screwing it all up? Let me know. Let me know, PATC community. Before I say thanks for everybody coming on in. I'm already receiving incredible generous support putting on this emergency live show this Friday afternoon. Before you all go watch the great basketball games of Friday night, tonight, the Final Four, Women's Final Four, and everything else that's going on in your lives, I thank you all for coming on in and spending at least a little bit of time with the fat guy from Minnesota. A victory for the ACC yesterday, but I believe, unless you all can Prove me wrong. I think today we might have gotten a little bit of a victory for Florida State and for Clemson. This is a grind. This is going to be a long, long battle. We've been talking about it. Don't get too up. Don't get too down. Expedition Greg, thank you so much for your gifted membership. Holy smokes. Thank you for your continued generosity you've given this channel, helping us keep the lights on. Expedition Greg, thank you, my friend. You are hereby cloak and dagger knighted once again. Thank you so very much. And Chief Fan, you are hereby cloak and dagger knighted. You are. Chief Fan, you were gifted a membership by Expedition Greg. Please say thank you to Expedition Greg. Chief Fan, now you can go into our Cloak and Dagger member-only episodes. Go check out episode 31. Go check out episode 30 of this week. I think what the information in those two episodes, I think it's going to be part of this story going in later into this month. This is not ending anytime soon. Not ending anytime soon. Expedition Greg, thank you for your generosity. Holy smokes. Carrie Gold Nose, incredibly generous PATC member. I mean, Carrie Gold Nose, even when I said the ACC had a victory yesterday, he was still very, very polite, comes into the community, tells it what he believes, what it is. Again, very generous. And now today with a possible Florida State victory here. Today, gifted 5 memberships. Holy smokes. Thank you, Gary Goldnose, for your continued generosity to this channel. It is very much appreciated. Lee, Dan Nokovsky, Isaac Harlan, No Blooded, and P.S. You are all gifted a membership. You are hereby Cloak and Dagger knighted. Thank you so much, Carrie Goldnose. I do appreciate it. Let me say thank you for everybody who's come on in. I know everybody's busy. It's Friday afternoon, early evening for some of you, middle of the afternoon for some of you. Y'all getting ready for the Final Four. Everything's going on. Everything is going on, but we do have breaking news. We do have breaking news. Chief Fan is in the house, who just became a Cloak and Dagger member. Hagen, Patrick Baylor Bear is in the house. Nick Kelso, Carson is in the house, and the Evil Badger. The Evil Badger, Jeff Olson, Mr. Terrapin, J.D. Turtle, Marcus Williams. Let's go. Minnesota Seminoles, Carson, Expedition Greg, N.E. Of course, Lee's in the house. Randy Taylor, Florida Canes. Good afternoon, PATC crew, AMAC. Howdy, y'all. Let's go. Charlie Atwood, Penn State is in the house. And again, everybody's got to behave themselves. Everybody has to behave themselves. The moderator, Mireya Hernandez Garcia, Flugar, who rules with an iron fist, is watching. Nathan Jones, Kyle Visser, Red Raider, Raider Vision, Stephen Vict, Brick Bat, holy smokes, Michael Munt, Amy S., Ryan Brooks, LSU, Go Tigers, Mick Stevens, Horn Frogs, baby, Wayne Russell, Mrs. Razorback is in the house. Holy smokes. L.K. Knoll is here. Derek Marie, William Curl, Don Scruggs, Georgia Bulldogs is in the house. Chad Bracey. This is big for Florida State and Clemson, unless they redact everything. Well, once we go through the 18 pages, we might have somebody telling me, yeah, Greg, pretty much everything is redacted. I think now, as I'm trying to set up this channel, We weren't planning to go live. This was an emergency live show. I'm trying to figure out the best way to show these documents to you. I'm just breezing through them, guys. I don't even know what I read. It seems like at least, Florida State has to, or the documents, the ACC documents that cannot be redacted. Some of the information has to be where, how much they actually paid Florida State all these years. But we shall see. How many redacted pages are we going to get from the ACC? 147. I don't know. Immaculate. Are we there yet? I don't know. I do not know. I do not know. David Hackett, Matthew Carlson, go blue. Let's go. Florida State, our web is in the house. Nathan, Kurt P, my prof, Coy is here. Jim Reese, Bimba 7579, Dave B, Mr. GR, the almighty Finn. I'm at work, Greg. So am I. I'm at work too. We're all at work. And we're going to try to figure what just happened. Just like lately, our live shows are all about all of us scrambling to see what the heck just happened. Paul Clifton is here. Nathan, William Carroll, Go Hills is in the house. Greg is always at work, basically. Okay, now let's just get to this. No question about that. Okay, so the best way I can do this, or pretty much the only way I can do this, because what I did yesterday was a disaster. Absolute disaster. So I'm going to try to post this a little bit differently here. Okay, so bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Okay, so there were some orders that were. We're not gonna go on the website. We're not gonna. I dumped all the images into one of my emails. I can't. We could barely see anything on the website. So there was three orders, I think. But first of all, there was a scheduling order. There's 3 pages. To me, this is important, but not what the breaking news is all about today. This is the matters before the court, Atlantic Coast Conference, the Board of Trustees, Florida State University. It's about discovery. It's about the management of the case. Discovery, both parties on March 5th requested that discovery not commence until resolution of the defendant's pending motion to dismiss or the alternative to stay. Because it wasn't dismissed or stayed, could be dispositive of this action. The parties therefore propose that if necessary, they should conduct a second case management meeting within 30 days. Just bear with me here. This is the best way, the only way we can really do this. If you look down on the second paragraph, on April 4th, 2024, the court issued its order and opinion on the defendant's motion to dismiss. We all know that, right? Because the court's motion to dismiss order did not fully dispose of its action, the court now enters this order to require the parties to timely engage in a second case management meeting The court, in its exercise of its discretion, hereby orders that the parties shall conduct a second case management meeting to discuss proposed discovery schedule, electronically stored information, limits on written discovery and depositions, privilege logs, the effects of an inadvertent waiver of attorney-client privilege or attorney work product, expert discovery, and all. And here's the last page of it. Holy smokes. Hold on. Other matters in forth. The case management order no later than May 20th, 2024. The court shall schedule a second case management conference by separate order. So we can have people tell us what all that means. It sounds like the case management order no later than May 20, 2024. May is not too far away, right? May 20th. May 20th. Now, let's get to the breaking news, which, again, I'm going to need help on here, guys. And I don't even know, well, let's just go with it. Atlantic Coast Conference versus the Board of Trustees of Florida State University. This matter is before the court upon the plaintiff, Atlantic Coast Conference, amended motion to seal. Having considered the motions to seal, the parties' briefs in support of and in opposition to the motion to seal, the appropriate evidence of record on the motions to seal, in the arguments of counsel at the hearing of motions to seal, the court is the exercise of its discretion and for the reasons set forth below, hereby grants in part and denies in part the ACC's amended motion to seal. So the ACC got some of it sealing up, some of it did not. It did not. Okay. On 21st of December 2023, the ACC provisionally filed under its seal its complaint for declaratory judgment and the 9 supporting exhibits. That same day, the ACC filed a motion to seal its complaint and 3 of the supporting exhibits. The ACC also filed a public redacted version of its complaint, unredacted versions of exhibits 1, 2, 4, 7-9, cover pages, blah, 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 stating that exhibits 3, 5, and 6 were filed under seal. On January 17th, the ACC provisionally filed under seal its first amended complaint. The amended motion to seal, the memorandum in support amended motion to seal. Accompanying these filings, the ACC filed public redacted versions of exhibits 8, 9, 12. Again, this is all talking about exhibits. We're not going to go through all those exhibits. Okay? Having reviewed the amended motion to seal, the ACC's brief in support and the Florida State's board opposition brief, the court entered an interim order on the amended motion to seal February 1st, 2024. And I'm going to see if I can skip a couple of these pages. And it goes on to talk about the ACC, if it had not already done so, to serve a copy of its amended motion to seal on third parties, ESPN Incorporated, ESPN Enterprise, and notify ESPN of its right to file a supporting brief under business court rule, which they did. This is all happening February 5th, February 6th. And then it talks about, I won't even show you, it talks about during the same period, Florida State Board filed its motion to dismiss or an alternative stay the action. February 7th, 2024, motion to dismiss, blah, 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 blah. The end point okay, here we go. Okay, we're going to go to here. Page 14, if you want to go through the 18 pages. Number 21. The privacy interests of non-party ESPN deserve special considerations in favor of sealing. Recognizing that special consideration should be given to the privacy interest of disclosure of the terms. No, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Of non-parties on sealing motions. ESPN has offered evidence that of ESPN's fundamental business functions is to negotiate media agreements with athletic conferences and other producers of athletic performance on as favorable terms as possible. Favorable terms as possible to ESPN, of course. And the court agrees with ESPN that the trade secrets and highly sensitive commercial information contained in its agreement should not become collateral damage in this lawsuit. The court therefore concludes that sealing the excerpts of the agreements in those portions of the pleadings in this action and the Florida action that quote form or refer to the agreements is appropriate. Nevertheless, the court agrees with the Florida State Board that certain of the ACC's redactions are arbitrary, inconsistent, and overboard. For example, in the complaint and the fact the ACC's inconsistency redacts general descriptions of the amounts previously received by Florida State under the agreements at issue in this litigation. Similarly, redactions of the term grant of rights, fees, payments, granted rights, fees are applied inconsistently through the complaint and the fact. The court will therefore direct the ACC to file a revised public version of the relevant filings that do not redact these terms, since they have been publicly disclosed in the ACC's own pleadings. The court otherwise grants the ACC's amended motion to seal as to the complaint. These documents shall remain under seal pending further order of the court, and shall be assembly only to the court and the council of record. So, look, to me that means the judge has the documents. Not all these things are going to come to public view, but they're going to be part of the case, right? It's going to be part of it all. The ACC shall have through and including April 15th, 2024 to file revised public redacted versions of the complaint that contain the more limited redactions identified in the preceding paragraphs. Okay. Again, it's very hard as a non-lawyer to understand what all that is about, but I will say this. I will say this. Again, hold on, everybody. Yeah, watch the, we got a certain, now this, Francois Dillinger, yeah, you're gone. I put you on a timeout before, but now you just gone from the channel. Your comments on other episodes was even less impressive than your comments during this live show. So now you're just gone. You've had your chance. Not a problem, Montcastle. We're a family college football YouTube channel. That I should have had that guy be gone earlier than today. I gave him a chance. But anyways, so again, Brian Murphy's reading. The judge rules that some parts of the ACC deals with ESPN can remain sealed, but some parts will have to be made public. ACC has until April 15th to file a public redacted version. And then quick non-lawyer read, judge agrees that the financial info, the pricing terms, the internal biz strategies should be kept sealed in that privacy interest of ESPN deserve special consideration, but notes some redactions are arbitrary, inconsistent, and overboard, including how much Florida State has received. I got a whole lot of questions. I don't have a lot of answers. I'm going to open up the phone lines. I'm going to open up the phone lines. I went through those 18 pages earlier. It's very difficult to go through. It's even more difficult to go through it on a live show. 763-260-1333. The one big point of it that they really has to show in this unredacted version is how much Florida State has made through all this. And my question is, are we going to see how much Florida State has made through all this compared with like Notre Dame? Is this, I mean, it's got to be, this is the ESPN agreement, right? ACC ESPN agreement, the whole thing. It's not just in regards to Florida State, the whole thing. I just want to see the official payouts, the ACC network payouts. How much Florida State has actually received the ACC network. We believe here at Pico on the Corner that the ACC schools have been receiving about $4 to $5 million per year. I want to see how much they've gotten on that deal. Because then I would like to see how much, at some point I would like to see what the considerations was when Florida State, when all these 15 university presidents signed on to the extended grant of rights in 2016 to extend this grant of rights from 2027 to 2036 as part of the considerations to sign in their name on the dotted line was the creation of the ACC network and how much were they told how much they would make. Because remember, Florida State, Miami, Florida, and every other school put a whole lot of money into it. Florida State made a point in their filing at some point that they and Miami, Florida, Miami University combined to put in $10 million in infrastructure to make sure that the ACC network could work in their facilities at Miami, at Florida State. So I just, again, I that part I think is going to be interesting, but it does seem that we're not going to get we're probably not going to get that language that Clemson and Florida State wants out. But now Hagen agrees with me. But let me ask you this question. And maybe this is that maybe of all the questions I have asked, were FSU and Clemson on the PATC trash can? I don't understand the question, Tony. Oh, the trash can. Jeez. Thank you for the super chat, Tony. I appreciate it. I think, let's see here. South Carolina is. I thought Florida State was on here. North Carolina State is. TCU is. There's TCU. Cornell, Army, Iowa. No. Neither Florida State or Clemson is on the trash can. Huh. I thought Florida State was. But no, the answer is no. But thank you for the super chat, Tony. I appreciate it. Beautiful college football trash can. I think this is the late 60s, right? We talked about this before. I believe that's the late 60s. Anyways, we picked that up in a at an antique store in Lake City, Minnesota, on the shores of yes and no. Southeast by the Mississippi River. Lake City, Minnesota. And that was the day and I filmed it, me and the wife filmed it, we got that trash can. That was the day when we got the word that Washington and Oregon was wanted by Fox Sports. I made a big deal of it. And if you see Washington, and their version of Washington is right here. Washington State is actually a different. There's actually a different Washington State on here. I've seen it. Well, anyways, Washington and Oregon are sitting right there next to Wisconsin. And so I thought that was kind of cool that all worked out. Anyways, long story. You guys don't even care about it anymore. Okay. What were we talking about? Oh, so this is my dumb question. This is my dumb question for the day. Is it any indication, so this was in Mecklenburg County, the judge. Some of this is being unredacted. Some of this is coming out in public view. An unredacted version is coming out on or before April 15th. A lot of it's being redacted. But what about Pickens County? What about Pickens County? What about Leon County? Can they rule that more of it has to be? I mean, doesn't this sort of tell me I'm probably wrong? I'm probably 100% wrong. But explain to me how I'm wrong. The phone lines are open. Doesn't this I know there's separate courts. I get it. But if Mecklenburg County judge was willing to go and say, no, ACC, you got to unredact part of this media agreement. Tell me this. What stops, tell me this. Somebody call me. Justin Lucas, Ryan Thomas, Immaculate, some lawyer out there, or anybody. Somebody tell me who is stopping Judge Cooper at Leon County to say, more of that has to be unredacted. We got a case going on in Leon County. What if ACC doesn't get the ruling on stay or dismiss? What if it keeps going on in Leon County? What if that whole blessed media agreement has to be put out and open? You remember the state of Florida sunshine laws? Everything's got to be opened up, correct? And what if it happens in Pickens County? That's what came to my mind. I understand these are separate state courts. This isn't different level of federal courts where a ruling below ruling above sets precedent for below. I get all that. But if Judge Bledsoe, the Mecklenburg judge says, no. Now, the most sensitive parts, those are going to remain sealed for now until further notice, until further ruling. But remember, everything that's redacted or unredacted or whatever is now in front of Judge Bledsoe. And that's all going to be part of this case in Mecklenburg County. Immaculate. And I don't have an answer for this either. I'm very interested in seeing if the judge in Florida will have some conflict with what is being said in North Carolina. Look, when we did our live show yesterday, Immaculate, it was kind of a throwaway line. I said, according to this ruling, where the ACC almost won a clean sweep except for the fiduciary, which is a big deal. That means Florida State and other ACC schools, they can kind of get kind of aggressive here and have some protections on being sued just because they're taking the ACC to court. But the other throwaway line was, and that I said yesterday was like, that motion to seal, that's going to be decided later. That's all I said about it, because that's what it said in the documents. I didn't know it was going to be announced today, the next day. That's why this is an emergency live show. We weren't going to do one. So it comes out, and again, I know people are late arriving. If you want to get the 30,000 feet above view of all this, Brian Murphy, the ACC versus Florida State, the judge rules that some parts of the ACC deals with ESPN can remain sealed, but some parts will have to be public. The ACC has until April 15th to file a public redacted version. And Brian Murphy says, quick, non-lawyer read. Judge agrees that financial info, pricing terms, internal biz strategies should be kept sealed, and that privacy interests of ESPN deserve special consideration. But note some redactions are arbitrary, inconsistent, and overboard, including how much Florida State has received. It's funny though. Two things here. Two things. You can give me a call at any time. One, my suspicion was raised when Florida State complained about the inconsistency of the ACC's redactions. Why is how much Florida State has made during all these years since the initial, this new contract that was from 2013 to 2027. Why has all that been redacted? Why did they redact all that? Well, they didn't redact all that. Excuse me. Some of it they didn't. But why? Was it just sloppy work? I don't think so. I don't know. Again, I have my nobody is telling me this. Well, people may be speculating this to me, and we've been doing it for quite a while, but I have my speculation only that there's something in there about the ACC network payouts that isn't quite jiving with what Florida State was told. That's just one part. But the other thing is, it seems to me from a non-lawyer read of these 18 pages, Clemson is not going to get, Florida State's not going to get the part unredacted, the part where it says in plain language, according to Florida State, and especially according to Clemson, that there's something there that shows that the grant of rights is limited in scope and that Clemson can leave. If they left the conference tomorrow, they take their media rights with them. Clemson says it's in plain language. That is obviously some sensitive part that's going to remain redacted. We're not going to see that from now and before April 15th. But if Mecklenburg County judge is willing to move this much on this motion to seal, ACC did not win the whole thing here. What happens in Leon County and Pickens County? I get it. They're separate state courts, but I don't know. Anyways, let me go through the comments. Give me the phone call, 763-260.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, the floor is yours. What do you think about this breaking news here?
Greg, thanks for having me on, Greg. I think it's beautiful. For one, it's exciting. Because this is kind of the meat and potatoes, in my opinion, of both FSU's argument and Clemson's argument. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of foresee this. When they only brought 13 pages of the contract to the fight,
yeah,
I think there's something in there that's inconsistent with what the ACC has been, telling everybody, for one, and I think there's leaps of assumptions that the ACC made as it pertains from the ESPN media agreement and the grant of rights.
Yeah.
And luckily, in this case, any major inconsistency gives Clemson, Florida State, whoever has the money to get out, it gives them more of a bargaining leverage on the amount they have to pay leaving.
Yes.
So what I took from it is in about 10 days, hopefully there will be a lot more certainty and a lot less uncertainty when it comes to the amount that Florida State Clemson has to pay to get out. But I will say this. I read an article today from the Raleigh Observer and of Jim Phillips, right? They interviewed him.
Okay.
He was
that came out today?
Yep. We have to market ourselves better. We have to do better marketing. And to myself, I thought, why didn't you do this when you took the job over, 4 years ago? And so it seems to me that I think within the next 60 days, 90 days, there will be an agreement. And I think the ACC is kind of shifting their face to, we're going to have a new conference. I have to market better. I'm going to take what Brett Yarmark is doing and try to reinvent the Big 12, because I think, and this is just my theory, that Jim Phillips never comes out and he's never public facing. And for him to be that strong and committed to a different marketing strategy tells me that there's leeway to be bargained there from the ACC, from Florida State and Clemson. Oh yeah, I can send it to you.
Send it to me. DM it to me.
Okay, it's behind a paywall, but I can send it to you.
No problem. Appreciate it.
But yeah, that's what I took from it. It's an exciting day. I think it's one step closer to getting a resolution, and I'm curious to see what ESPN does, because the ACC just does what ESPN allows them to do, and I'm curious to see how ESPN plays this, because that's more telling than anything.
Yeah. Well, and I think the one thing that ESPN doesn't want to have happen is for this agreement to be come out in public in full, right? So,
yes.
Again, we got this April 9th where we're going to be covering it live here at Peek Around the Corner in Leon County, okay? And they're going to be talking about this media agreement, obviously, back and forth. This we could see. Now, I'm probably completely wrong, and people are going to say, Greg, you're incredibly naive, but, we could see the ruling on the dismiss or stay in Leon County at about the same time we received that public but yet redacted view of this media agreement, ESPN, that the Judge Bledsoe just said that the ACC had to do before April 15th. We could see both those at about the same time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So and shoot, man. I'm asking you, BJ, and I'm asking anybody in the chat, anybody else. What is stopping if the Leon County Judge Cooper, if he truly believes that this thing should be completely blown, this agreement should be wide open in public view, everything, because of the state of Florida, sunshine laws, whatever his thinking is. What is stopping that from happening? I mean, would ESPN could they immediately appeal that ruling, and then we still would have a slog to where maybe we still won't see it for a while? But what is stopping the Leon County judge from ruling on that if he truly believes in that? This won't stop it, correct?
Here's what I think about that, Greg. And sorry to interrupt you.
No. Go ahead.
I think FSU never brought up the unilateral extension that Jim Phillips did in 2021, I think it was, where he extended it, the extension. I think they're going to bring that up in Florida because it plays better in Florida, and it shows clearly that there was some irregularities, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that alone should get the contract, visibility, right? I think they chose not to talk about that in North Carolina for a reason. I think everyone in Florida State knew we're not going to win in North Carolina, so let's hold our best cards at home, right? So I would not be surprised if on the 9th, we're talking about that unilateral extension that Jim Phillips approved without the vote of the teams, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is very critical, and if the judge hears that and sees that as a misstep, without a doubt, that contract will be forced to kind of be public.
Yeah.
However, before the ACC appeals or anything, then you have to talk to Big Brother ESPN, right? And ESPN will either let's get to the table, let's get an agreement done. I really don't see even if Judge Cooper wants the contract to be unsealed, more of it unsealed, I really don't think ESPN will allow it. I think ESPN will come to the negotiation table and nip that in the bud before it even sees the light of day, which is good for FSU and Clemson.
Yeah. That's why I'm considering today a victory. Just a victory in a battle of a big, large war. But that's why I'm considering today a victory for Florida State and Clemson.
For sure.
Because
for sure.
I know this ruling doesn't open up the things you want it to open up. But again, and I understand that Florida and what happens in North Carolina may not affect what happens in Florida at all. But man, oh man, if you get this type of... I was actually expecting very, nothing being open. Very little. I wasn't expecting anything. Actually. So this seems to be a victory for Florida State. But a bigger victory just might be around the corner here. Peek around the corner because of that April 9th. And if Judge Cooper opens that thing up just a little bit more and then Pickens County busts that thing wide open, well, we might have some mediation going on between all the parties, like you say, BJ.
And I agree with you. I think that here's the thing that I noticed that I observed in the North Carolina. The North Carolina judge kind of hinted at mediation, right? That typically these type of disagreements are mediated.
Mm-hmm.
So to see both sides just throw haymakers was fairly odd because you're going to have to sit to the table anyway and negotiate. So typically the haymakers don't come out until much later. So, but as I've told you before, I think it's a victory for those who want to get out of the ACC because instead of 13 pages, you're going to get the full 160 redacted, of course. But Florida State and Clemson are not banging the drums for nothing. There's something in those documents that are inconsistent and provides a loophole for the boys, for the Seminoles and the Tigers to get out.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate the phone call, sir. Excellent.
All right, you have a blessed day.
Yeah, you too, BJ. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I agree. I might be, call me and let me know that the fat guy from Minnesota is being naive on this. I just think that if you get a little bit of movement in Mecklenburg County, I know the courts are separated. I get it. But if you get this type of movement in Mecklenburg County, and there is movement on this, not quite what Florida State and Clemson probably wants. We'll find out when we see the unredacted version of all the pages. I mean, not partially redacted version.
Call from.
Look.
To accept, press.
I did not get the name. Who's calling?
Rick.
Who?
Rick.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, you and I agree on most of this, and I think we have the same question and might have the answer available to us. Now, the judge has provided about, from what I can see, about 25% of what Florida State has asked for to be disclosed. Is that about right, of 20%?
Of the I don't know how to put a percentage on it, but
Okay, well let's just call it.
Sure.
He's disclosed 20%, and there's 80% that he didn't.
Sure.
Somewhere in that order, in that court order, he would have given a basis for not providing the other 80%.
You're right, and he did not. In fact, he went the opposite on it. Keep talking. I'm going to find that page. Go ahead.
And I say that because if that's the case, if he came out and gave 20% but didn't give 80% and didn't give a reason for not giving the 80%, then I think the Florida judge is going to eat him up next week. Because you've got to have a reason to deny it.
Yes. You're right.
It can't be because I'm the judge and I don't feel like it. There's got to be a legal basis for it.
On page 17, I don't know why I'm not putting it up on the board here. Hold on. I don't know what's going on here. Hold on. I got something here. I'm having a hard time getting it so people can actually see it. Yeah, you're right. In fact, he says the following. I got up on the screen. These documents shall remain under seal pending further order of the court and shall be accessible only to the court and counsel of record. To me, so some of these documents, in this case, like Brian Murphy said here, the financial info, the price and terms, the internal business strategies should be kept sealed. But the judge saying at this point, these documents should be kept sealed, under sealed, pending further order of the court, and shall be accessible only to the court and counsel of record. He's not saying they shall never be opened, and these are the reasons A, B, C, D, E, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we agree on the fact he's not providing the A, B, C, D, E.
Yes.
And that's everything.
Yeah, I think, yeah. You're onto something there, sir. No question.
You can't do it because you don't feel like doing it. You have to have a basis for not doing it. That's what the law is all about. And I'm sure that Florida judge is going to make a decision and consider what the North Carolina judge has done.
What is he going to consider?
And consider what the North Carolina judge hasn't done.
I mean, will he consider or not consider that? I don't know.
He's in the same boat. He has to have a basis for making the ruling. You can't rule because you're in the mood for it.
Yeah.
You got to have a legal basis for denying or not denying. And that is always included in the decision. except in this case.
So let me ask you a question. Let's say we're going to cover it live here at Peek Around the Corner, April 9th, the Leon County thing, the Leon County pleadings back and forth. Let's say we get a ruling on April 15th or whatever day. Leon County Judge Cooper, and he basically says pretty much everything has to be opened up in public view for everybody to see them between the ACC and ESPN media agreement. What do you think happens then if that is the ruling from Judge Cooper in Leon County?
Well, I think that's the start of some really big problems.
Yeah.
Because first of all, before anything happens in Florida, that Florida judge is going to have to say, well, does North Carolina have jurisdiction or don't they have jurisdiction?
True. Yeah.
And if he says, no, I think Florida has jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Well, then we've got a problem, and we're going to compound it with a South Carolina judge deciding whether or not he has jurisdiction.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. If that Leon County judge says the venue should be in Leon County, the jurisdiction in the state of Florida, and then his next thing is, in accordance to all that, accordance to the state of Florida sunshine laws, shoot, man, Florida State can't even be in a business relationship with documents that are sealed like this. They have to have them open. So therefore, we rule that all these pages in this agreement, all 160, whatever, how many there is, all has to be opened up. Then, what does ESPN and ACC do?
The war is on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for taking my call.
You got it. I appreciate it. Great call, sir. Yeah, I read that. After careful and thorough review, the court concludes that partial sealings requested by the ACC and ESPN is appropriate for several reasons. For now. But that was in Mecklenburg County Court. Some of it was opened up.
Call from
Jamie Thornton.
Jamie Thornton, the floor is yours. How you doing? Let me just.
Hey, Greg. I'm hanging in there.
Just give me one moment. I just want to
take care of it.
Dog's Life in Portland. I did go through that. Some of it, a lot of it is being kept sealed, including, I believe, some of the most sensitive parts. It's just like what Brian Murphy reported at WRAL, but some of it is being unredacted, so to speak. And if you have that kind of movement in Mecklenburg County, what kind of movement are we going to get in Leon County if Judge Cooper first says, no, this is going to continue to go on. The state of Florida, Leon County, Florida State should have jurisdiction. And then he rules that this motion to seal, everything gets opened up. Then Honestly, I was not expecting any of it really to be seen in public. But we're going to see some of that. And I think there might be a sensitive part being unveiled. There might be, because, again, and I apologize, Jamie, I'll get to you in a second. Again, why was the ACC's redaction in all these pages of the agreement, ACC, ESPN, grant of rights, but the media agreement between ESPN and ACC, why was this all redacted. Why were the number figures, the payment figures, inconsistently redacted? When something is inconsistently redacted, and now that's going to be opened up, by the way. Why was it inconsistently redacted? Because of sloppy work? Or was there something there that didn't want to be shown to everybody? And I got a feeling that there might be something very sensitive in regards to the payment of Florida State versus somebody else. That's maybe a partial member of the conference, or there may be something sensitive in there when it comes to the ACC network payment to Florida State versus what Florida State has invested in versus what the consideration was given from the ACC to Florida State in the creation of the ACC, what was promised to Florida State for the Florida State president, the chancellor, whoever, to sign their name on the dotted line to get that grant of rights extended from 2027 to 2036. Jamie Thornton, the floor is yours.
Well, hey, Greg, how are you? I hope you're okay today. Thanks for coming on. I'm not going to be very long, but I just wanted to say, this is like I mentioned in the chat, this is pretty much, it's a weird scenario where it's like a weird, love triangle, right, that's gone bad. And when you look at this, obviously part of it is still kept secret. But like you said, what, from the ESPN perspective of things, because a lot of people have to realize, and that's really what I wanted to talk about here. The ACC has a big problem. Obviously, we know about these schools trying to leave. But we also know, and I know you've mentioned this a lot, but the option for them to, for 2027, and why haven't they renewed yet? And certainly there's these talks about negotiation for a price. ESPN can already be telling the ACC, look, you've got FSU, you've got Clemson trying to get out the door, and who knows, UNC possibly next. We're not going to pay you. And now you're talking about who knows what trade secrets could be exposed or what is important that's going to be opened up to everyone, which is going to annoy ESPN even more. So it's kind of like this game, right? And if you're Jim Phillips and you're the ACC and you tell ESPN, well, nobody's going anywhere. They can leave all they want, but we still have their media rights. So, we want to get paid 100%. So that's kind of my angle about all this. At what point does Jim Phillips and the ACC, what point do they tick off ESPN enough to say, okay, look, we're just walking, right? Like at what point with this possibly this stuff being exposed, how does this affect that? Because it's very important. I mean, we keep inching closer and closer to that date, and there's been no word on it. And I don't think ESPN is gonna renew at 100%. There's just no way. So yeah, that was kind of my take on all this. And now, obviously, some of the stuff being protected, but some of it not. And that's kind of one thing I wanted to ask you, Greg. If you're Jim Phillips and the ACC right now, with your small victory and the first battle of many this week, and if Florida State and Clemson came to you, you're Jim Phillips, right? And they came to you and they asked you, okay, so what price right now for me to buy our media rights back? What do you think?
I would hope that Jim Phillips, and I'm sure he has calculated, has asked for certain valuations from ESPN, saying how much would the remaining ACC members make minus, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State,
right. At least
whatever. Okay, and certain combinations of valuations. How much, when we redo our contract, if schools leave, how much would the rest of the schools get, and how much would we get if we brought on a Tulane and a few other schools, a Washington State, Oregon State, and then how much would it take for all the other schools, if they stayed, to remain whole in their payments In other words, getting money from the schools that are leaving. What is that? Like, I'm sure all of this is up on some big old spreadsheet, right? And and that number might have even been floated to Clemson and Florida State already. I mean, we saw back and forth in those pleadings between Clemson and the ACC so far that Clemson, ACC said, okay, we're open for a business solution on your membership in the conference. But then Clemson suddenly put out a lawsuit against the ACC. I'm sure all that I'm sure there's a sliding number there depending on all these variables. And once Florida State, Clemson, and ACC gets in the room and that number is hit, then ACC, I think, could probably take the deal. Because at this point, the last thing you want, if you're Jim Phillips, is you're trying to stand firm right now. That at what point do you annoy ESPN enough to where if they pull it and they say we're not going to renew it, and then you have only until 2027 to get some kind of new media deal together, right? Because they have until that point in time. Because once that happens, these schools can walk at 2027. So that's what I'm saying. There's a whole nother factor here at play. I'm not totally convinced that ESPN is willing to walk away from this ACC content from 2027 and beyond. I think I'm in the minority on that, but I don't.
I think they want to keep them, but I just think at a lot lower rate, and maybe even a lot lower rate than what Jim Phillips and the ACC want. Yeah. So my point is, there's a lot of negotiation that's at play here, and so it's But yeah, I was just curious myself, thinking what you thought that number might be as of today if the ACC and Jim Phillips said, "Okay."
I don't know what that number is. It would have to be high right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like super high.
Yeah,
I mean,
but as time goes on here, it might get low. So yeah,
right. And that's what I'm saying. I wonder at what point and what number Florida State and Clemson are willing to say, okay. I mean, I guess everybody's wondering that, but
Yeah.
But it's gonna be like you said. This is gonna be long and drawn out, probably. I mean, I'm just trying to sit there and think about with the ESPN thing going on at the same time, and what might get exposed, and at what point do they get annoyed to where they say, okay, if we can't work something out. They've got that deadline to do it. It's how these court things go. They're not quick, and that date's creeping up closer and closer. So that was kind of my point on it. Well, have a great weekend, Greg. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jamie. Michael Monk, thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate your generosity to the channel. Thank you so very much, Mr. Monk. Tony, we already went through that trash can. Rock and Rant went to a college football realignment fight and a tennis match broke out. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what most of what you guys are saying. Thank you, Rock and Rant. I do appreciate the super chat. I do appreciate your generosity. I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what that means. You're going to have to explain it to me. Look, okay, I've told this story before. I've got the phone off the hook. I'm going to put it back on. This is not quite an apples to apples comparison. This is an apple to an orange or an apple to a banana. What I'm talking about, okay, so I used to be, way back in the day, I haven't done it for, now it's 26 years. I did, went to college, political science, speech communications. I worked for a particular campaign. I'm not a member of any party. I wouldn't want to be a member of any party that would want me be a member of. But back in the day, I did some political polling, and I was doing an exit polling for the governor's race of the state of Minnesota in 1998. So I did 2 precincts. I did 4 precincts, 2 voting precincts. 2 of them in Brooklyn Park and 2 of them in Coon Rapids. Those are North Metro suburbs. Brooklyn Park is basically a first ring suburb of Minneapolis. Coon Rapids, second ring suburb. North Metro, kind of. Middle class precincts. So I'm doing exit polling, and I'm doing the morning wave. What that means is from in Minnesota, the polls open at this point, I was doing from 8 in the morning to 12 o'clock noon Central Time. No, first Tuesday in November, 1998. I was doing exit polling. So what you do is you go in front of person enters, comes out 50 yards away. You can ask the question legally, or back then in 1998. You can ask, I was being paid for this. You can ask, you would ask, like, you would have a number. Like every 6th person that enters coming towards you, you have to ask, you go and approach the person the question. You name what campaign you're from, and you say, can I ask you just a couple of exit poll questions? And if they say no, you mark that down, and then you take the next 6th person, or whatever that number is. But it has to be consistent. And it can't be so you take away any demographic biasness that you have. Every 6th person, no matter if it's an old man, a young woman, it doesn't matter if the person's short, tall, whatever. Every 6th person, 8th person, you ask the question. And if they're willing to answer, then you ask, who did you vote for governor? Blah, 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 blah. So from 8 in the morning to noon, I went to 4 different precincts. And then I had to call in the campaign that I was working on. And I had to give them the numbers. And when I gave them the numbers, I said to myself, wow, this will be the last time anybody hires me to do any exit polling ever again. Because my numbers were nuts. They didn't make any sense. Before the last public pollings and internal pollings, before the governor's race in Minnesota in 1998, Norm Coleman and Humphrey, the son of Hubert Humphrey, they were both polling in the 30s, and Jesse Ventura, the independent candidate, had gone all the way up to 25%. When I had to call in the first exit poll wave from 8 in the morning to 12 for 4 precincts up in the North Metro area, my number for Jesse Ventura was 42%. 42% of the people who were willing to answer an exit poll said Jesse Ventura. If Jesse Ventura is at 42% in the metro area, North Metro area, that means he's going to be probably in the mid-30s statewide. He was the mayor of Brooklyn Park. He was, it fit his demographics. And he's at 42, 43%. So I'm calling this in thinking I'm either going to get yelled at, laughed at, or I'm a young kid in 1998. Not that young. But I wasn't young in 1998. Holy smokes. I was not young in 1998. I was 30 years old. Anyways, So I called it in, and the guy picked up the phone, and I'm giving him the numbers. You just give him the numbers. You don't give him the percentage. But I had figured out on my paper and pad that, it was 43% Ventura. And he guy says back to me, he says, yeah, that the first wave all over the place. Ventura is about to get about 36 to 37 to 38% of the vote statewide. At that point, early in the day, now he had more information than just the Brooklyn Park and Coon Rapids precincts, but if you tabulate it all together, Ventura was going to be right there in the 3-person race. He very well could win it. He'll probably win it. And I'm thinking, holy smokes. I went home, didn't tell anybody, kept my mouth shut, but knew that when the newscast came on, that Ventura was going to be right. And he won. And he won with 37% of the total vote. Okay, so what does that all mean? It means this is how I look at this case in Mecklenburg County. There was movement in where a lot of this was, some of it's being unredacted. The media agreement between ESPN and ACC. A little bit, there was more movement than I thought there was going to be, which means other parts of the state, but it isn't other parts of the state. Other parts of this story, I think we're going to get even more movement in Leon County and in Pickens County on this ACC ESPN agreement. More of it's going to be in public view than I think we initially believed, or at least I did. Does that make any sense? It really is apple to oranges, but that's how I'm feeling on this. Give me a call. The phone lines are back open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333.
Call from
William.
William? Is this
Hello,
William?
Greg.
The floor is yours. How are you doing? Thanks for calling, sir.
Nice chats today.
Yes.
Reason I was calling was because a couple of things with that ESPN contract. You're not we might be in the minority. I also think ESPN wants to pick it up. I mean, everybody has been saying how the ACC is undervalued and ESPN has a sweetheart deal. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, FSU left this year. It's quite possible that ESPN would lose money this year, but they have that contract through 2036.
Yeah.
They're not losing money on the back end, and it's probably still going to be a sweetheart deal from 2028 through 2036, even without FSU. So if I'm ESPN, I'm not renegotiating right now. I'm also not canceling that contract and opting out right now. I'm waiting to see if FSU can get out. I'm waiting to see if FSU has to pay $500 million, because maybe they do it, but Clemson won't. Obviously, nobody thinks it's going to be $500 million, but where is that sweet spot where Clemson decides to, let's say, wait a few more years, where UNC waits a few more years, and FSU bolts? So I think ESPN is just going to wait probably until the last minute to see what's in their benefit. Do they just leave it because, hey, we only lost FSU, or Clemson? Only they know where the break-even point is, and we just have to remember that the grant of rights is through 2036. So if it's January of next year and it only appears like Clemson and FSU is going to leave, they might just let it roll.
Yeah, yeah. Let it roll, or yeah. I I think they would probably have to renegotiate on that because the losing your two top football brands like that. Plus, if those two go, North Carolina's going. Um, but no, but I do agree with you on the sense of I'm with you. I at this point in time, I think in the PATC Sportsbook that's on 2 miles away from the PATC Holy Smokes Theater on the right side of Keith Jackson Parkway. If you go into the PATC Sportsbook and look at the big wall, you see it's chalk. It's the favorite that ESPN actually does pick up their option and continues with ACC content from 2027 and beyond. So you and I in agreement on that.
Yeah, and I mean, they might come and say, I mean, everybody's telling the ACC how much they'll lose if FSU and Clemson and let's say UNC leave. They might come and say, hey, we'll give you 75% on the previous contract, fully well knowing that they're still going to get some money from the ACC network. ESPN doesn't just want to lose all that investment. So, I mean, unless it completely blows up, where it turns out that, hey, they throw out the grant of rights or FSU and Clemson find some loophole that allows them to get out, which to things that you have mentioned in the past week or two, if ESPN and ACC didn't dot all their I's and cross all their T's on that contract, there might be something there that'll cause Clemson and FSU to get out for little or free, which at that point it blows up the conference, right? But otherwise, I think ESPN wants to keep it, and they can come back and say, hey, we'll give you 75% of what we were giving you, just because that's a lot of investment that they have in there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you, which means it's a fantastic phone call. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, sir. Great call.
Yep. I actually had one more thing. You note a couple of times of what people perceive the grant of rights to be. And we have to think about what everybody thought back in 2013, right? Mm-hmm. Or 2012, Maryland is leaving. ACC is scared that they might lose UNC and Virginia. Mm-hmm. So Florida State is scared that they might lose UNC and Virginia. There's no concept of Florida State joining the Big Ten. There's no concept of Florida State joining the SEC.
Yes.
So what does the ACC do, including Virginia, because they don't want to be the ones left in the ACC with UNC leaving or vice versa.
Yeah.
They come what we all perceive the grant of rights to be. You're signed through 2036, and you can't leave without giving up all your rights.
Yes.
Or paying not only the exit fee, but whatever is in the contract to offset those years.
Yeah.
Maryland left. I think, the reason why Maryland and the ACC got into lawsuits was because the exit fee had been increasing from like 14 to 30 to 56 million. And Maryland was saying, hey, it's not 54. We said we were getting out before it jumped up to the 50 millions. And that was the only thing that they were arguing about. And right now, I think the exit fee is at 140 million. So that would have been the only thing that Maryland would have fought for 12 years ago. In this case, we have that grant of rights, which we all believe to be the case. Now, good for Florida State if Clemson can, and Florida State and Clemson, if they can find a loophole of a T that wasn't crossed or an I that wasn't dotted. But FSU knew what they were signing. They didn't want UNC and Virginia to leave the ACC because they would have been stuck in a conference that was gutted. Now, unfortunately for them, that deal turned out to be bad. And it isn't like ESPN has only screwed the ACC. They've done the same thing to the SEC. If you remember, the SEC contract goes through 2034. And the only reason why the SEC is getting this whole bump was because of CBS and ESPN just taking that piece over. So it just so happens that the SEC hasn't gotten screwed as bad as the ACC. So just a little bit on that, just because I know that a lot of times you do mention, hey, what we all perceive the grant of rights to be.
Yep. Beautiful, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Greg.
You got it. Call again, sir. Now, when Maryland went into that exit fee battle with the ACC, obviously there was no grant of rights at that time. And when those other schools, when North Carolina, Virginia, when they declined Big Ten's overtures, when all that happened, when they signed the grant of rights, it was only the 2020. Now, I shouldn't say only.
Call from
JD.
JD, can you hold on for just a second?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. So when they signed on to that grant of rights in 2013, that was going to 2027. We're at 2024. So if there's it's all about what they signed in 2016, few years after Maryland left. It's all about the extended grant of rights. It's all about the considerations that they received or did not receive. It's all about, or I shouldn't say all about, but some of it's about the creation of the ACC network. So when Maryland left and the battle was over the exit fee, and then they put in the grant of rights to make sure that they had a stable conference for 14 years, that if any of those schools left the conference, they wouldn't bring their own rights with them. But then there was an extended grant of rights signed in 2016 to extend the grant of rights from 27 to 36. Again, just my speculation. I'm glad JD called, because one of the parts that was redacted, that is redacted from public view in regards to the ACC ESPN media agreement has to be unredacted, according to Judge Bledsoe's ruling today in Mecklenburg County, and it has to be unredacted between now and April 15th, 2024, the part about how much Florida State has been paid all through these years. And one of those parts has to do with the ACC network. And why did the ACC redact all that in the first place? Why? I mean, it was arbitrary, it was excessive, and the judge is asking that. Why? So they're unredacted. And I think maybe there could be a weakness in ESPN's consideration towards Florida State in the creation of the ACC network. Maybe it didn't meet certain benchmarks that Florida State was promised. I don't know. I'm just throwing that up there because, again, I don't know. I'm just saying this because for whatever reason, there was, even in Mecklenburg County, there was a way over redaction of this ESPN ACC media agreement. And if there's movement in Mecklenburg County, what's going to be the movement in Leon County? What's going to be the movement in Pickens County? I ask you, JD, Mr. Seminole, the floor is yours. How you doing, sir? I think this is a victory of many battles yet to come. But yesterday, victory ACC, because they did not really sustain too much of a loss in any of those decisions, rulings. But today, I think it was a loss for the ACC, victory for Florida State. What do you think, sir?
Well, in yesterday's ruling, and it just depends upon how far you go out. I know you probably saw TJ's posting earlier today and talking about, they dismissed the judge dismissed FSU's fiduciary responsibilities to the ACC.
Yeah.
If what he is saying is correct, that the ACC cannot seek damages against FSU, I'd like for a lawyer to weigh in on that.
Yeah.
But that's big.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
yeah, and we talked about that yesterday. It was that the ACC did not get what they wanted on that. That's for sure.
And the rest of it, you kind of assumed it was going to happen anyway, because from the hearing, I don't know, just the judge's mannerisms, and you didn't get the sense that he was going to push it off. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of expected him to continue on with the case. In response to your last caller, it's a great call. I kind of came in towards the middle of it, but the only thing I would say in rebuttal to that is people forget that the grant of rights was signed to give the ACC the ability to go negotiate the deal with ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then the ACC comes back and says, this is the best deal we could get. Part of what the rumors, and I don't know if it's in FSU's amendments or not, was that the ACC actually had 3 separate options, 3 separate contract options. And the one they chose paid the least, and it went to the longest term. So supposedly...
Now, where are you hearing this?
I heard this. This was about 2 months ago, and I heard it multiple times, and it's in that... When they started pushing those rumors, okay, remember how I told you some of this stuff sounds a little salacious and unsubstantiated?
Okay.
Well, FSU's putting that same language in their most recent amendments talking about.
I did not. So is that in any of the pleadings that Florida State has?
I don't know for sure if that is, but I know the other things that people were talking about in alignment with that, or in conjunction with that, I'm sorry, have all been entered into the lawsuit. You follow me? So, again, I'm still wanting some clarification, but there's two different people that have been correct up to this point, was that the ACC had other options on contracts. And they chose this one because it involved Raycom. Okay? So, you don't want me to go into the Raycom thing because because we'll be here for hours, and you'll believe that they're all guilty of fraud.
But I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
And so when so many of these people are consistently right when they're talking about the rumors, and then it enters into the lawsuit, it correct as far as what FSU is alleging. Okay. But the other thing is, do I believe ESPN has any intention to extending this contract? 0%. Because there's FSU insiders on the message boards that I didn't see it. But in 2021, when ESPN initially wasn't going to extend the contract, they knew about it back then. They even published it on the boards. They've even put it back on the message board just as a reminder, saying, remember what I said in 2021? And in their language, they were saying that ESPN had told the ACC that they had no intention on re-upping the contract. And as a matter of fact, the college football model moving forward is unsustainable. There's not enough value in it. That's why realignment has pushed forward. People don't want to believe this. ESPN wants realignment. I think ESPN could have stopped and tried to prevent this lawsuit a long time ago. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't believe they want to be seen as the one pushing it, but behind the scenes, the networks are the ones pushing it. There was so much money floating around in college football, and some of it just didn't have value. There were a lot of teams that were going to get 30, 40, 50 million a year, then I'm sorry, they're just not worth it. Look at the ACC viewership, okay? Take out FSU, Clemson, and North Carolina, and maybe Miami. Take those schools out, and you tell me that the teams left over with their viewership numbers are going to be worth $50 million a year apiece. They're just not. Now, maybe you transport them into another conference. Maybe they'll be worth it. But their current viewership does not substantiate that price tag.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If Florida State knows, if they knew it back in 21, if they knew it back in 22, if they knew it back in 23, if they know it now in 2024, that ESPN was for sure going to opt out of distributing ACC's content for 2027 beyond, why did Florida State pull the trigger on going to the courts on this to try to get the gore invalidated or try to get a settlement? Because that's only 3 more years left.
Well, because we only found out about the option in 2021, and 2021 wasn't that long ago. It's 2.5 years ago.
But why is Florida? If Florida State knows that ESPN is declining, they're going to decline here. They're going to walk away from the ACC for beyond 2027. Then Florida State should just hang on for 3 more years, not go to the courts. There's no reason to go to the courts. Because if ESPN declines for 2027, the grant of rights is only going to go to 2027. Florida State can leave in 2027. See, I believe that Florida State don't know what ESPN's going to do, and they can't risk going all the way to 2036. They would be.
There's a phrase that keeps. Well, let me address one thing first, and then I'll move to that.
Yeah.
Back in 2021, FSU wasn't in position to do this. Okay, they weren't in position to do this.
Mm-hmm.
They had a money crunch in the late teens and going into like 2020 and 2021. Okay, their football model was still operating on the model from 20 years ago. It wasn't operating on the current model. Okay. Now FSU is one of the most aggressive, athletic departments around, and their NIL collective is, if it's not the best, it's in the top 3. Anyway, go ahead.
No, but I get all that. In the chat, or Kerry Gold knows, Greg, we have to act now while the door is open. But again, if Florida State absolutely knows that ESPN's going to decline in 2027, why are they going to the courts in 2024?
Because they had to have a landing spot, and they didn't have a landing spot in 2021.
Forget about 2021. Forget about 21, 22, 23. I mean,
okay. Since
2021, ESPN has been able to opt out of the, and we in Florida State didn't know that, or whatever. It don't matter. Why Florida State filed a lawsuit against the ACC in December 22nd, 2023.
I got you.
Why are they filing if they know that ESPN's definitely leaving in 27? It doesn't logically. I don't know how anybody could know what ESPN's going to do. And to me, Clemson and Florida State are definitely not acting like ESPN's going to absolutely keep their content from 27 beyond, because then they wouldn't be spending the money, risking possible damages and everything else going in the courts today. That's my point.
ESPN does not want to be seen as the entity influencing realignment. They don't want to be seen as the one breaking up conferences. They don't want that. They want realignment to happen, and it look like they are responding. They are not the one driving it. There's lawsuits there's potential legal issues for them if they're breaking up conferences and moving teams around. They can't be seen as the one doing that. You can't. It's just too much liability for them. Not to mention public relations issues. That's from what I understand. That's not verbatim what I've been told, but from what people are hinting at when they say the networks are pushing this. We all hear that the networks are pushing this. They're pushing this. Okay, well, if they're pushing this, if ESPN didn't want this, they could have stopped this, and they haven't. Okay? The reason ESPN has gone to court, well, there's issues between FSU and ESPN right now, and it has to do with a lot of things. Not just the snub. Yeah. It was Skipper. It was John Skipper. It was a lot of things.
Yeah.
It was the dealings with the underhanded dealings, giving Notre Dame so much power over the conference, and ESPN right along with it. So what I'm saying is, from what I understand, and we all hear that the networks are the ones pushing realignment, they don't publicly and legally want to be the ones seen doing the dirty work, even though they're the ones driving it, because it wouldn't happen if they didn't want it, because they're the ones paying the bills. You know, the SEC and the Big Ten didn't do this on their own. The networks are the ones pushing. I mean, they're the puppet masters. This is what they want.
Yeah.
And this is conversations that happened in 2020 and 2021 that the current football model going in for the next 10 years doesn't work. And those aren't my words. Yes, we've all heard Regal Knoll.
Yeah.
There's some things he throws out there that it's just like, wow, man, I can't believe you're going there, and I don't know how to justify it. And then the dang thing comes true, and you just throw up your hands, and you're like, you're talking to somebody. You know, he's talking to somebody, but it's not just him. I've heard that from a couple other places too. But he publicly was even stating on the board everything that I'm saying, and this was back in 2021.
Yeah.
And see, the teams became aware of the extension in 2021. Go ahead. I'm sorry, you were about to say something.
No, it's just my okay. Now, you know. I've also heard, you know, a lot, like, you know, we've talked about it. There's something in the college football playoff contract that makes it so a school could leave in realignment in the next 2 years without any penalty. Yada, yada, yada. There's all these things. Florida State could leave and become an independent for 2024. Florida State could leave the conference for 2024. ESPN is definitely going to walk away from their ESPN contract in 2027. My answer to all of that is the same thing. Then why is Florida State grinding in the courts? To me, I don't think Florida State knows that ESPN is going to walk away for 2027. That by February 1st, 2025, that's the deadline for ESPN to make that decision. I don't think there is any magic wand, any magic potion, any magic out card for Florida State. That's why they're in the courts. They worked on this for a couple years. They pulled the trigger. Clemson did the same thing. They're hiring all these lawyers, costing all this money. They are risking. They're absolutely risking something when they're doing all this. I don't think there's a magic door behind curtain number 3. And I don't think one of those magic curtains is that people absolutely know 100% sure that ESPN's walking away from ACC for 2027 and beyond. Because if they knew that, if some schools were told that, remember last week we heard all this, some ACC schools, if they knew that, they wouldn't be doing, Florida State wouldn't be doing what they're doing. But,
well, the rumor was, and there was a rumor rotating around about a week ago, was ESPN has already told the ACC that they're not renewing. It's just the ACC hasn't told the schools.
Yeah, I'm not.
And I don't know. I can't substantiate that.
Yeah,
you know, but
Kerry Gold knows. Thank you for the super chat. The ACC told all the teams that a deal with ESPN was only good until 2036. We were misled. We have proof. Now, that could be, look, everybody that I ever talked to thought that this thing was going on in 2036, that ESPN did not have this option of walking away. I haven't heard that. I did not hear that from. The first time I heard that was in the Board of Trustees on December 22nd, 2023. If Regal Knoll or somebody said that before then, please show me the receipts on it. Send it to me. That's the first time national reporters were shocked. I was shocked. But Florida State knew. Florida State knew that there was an option.
Florida State found out, and I think Florida State found out in 2021. But
okay, whatever year that was.
And I will find that. I mean, I have that, and I will send that to you.
All right.
But it's just like, but you know, again, some of this. Now, let's also walk this back a little bit. A settlement is in everyone's best interest. If these nuclear options, let's just say, and I don't know if they're real because I personally don't know. You know, I can just see, you know, read 1, 2, 3 insiders, things that they're saying, and then you're like, well, everything else that they predicted has come true. Maybe not the timing, but the college football playoff was all supposed to have been done a year ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's the timing may not be accurate, but we just got that done a few weeks ago. I say we, the networks and the conferences. But everything else that had to happen in the realignment or the order of realignment, it's like everything had to follow a specific order. That has worked out like everything that they've said. You know, this can't happen till this happens. And, you know, ACC realignment will not happen until after the college football playoff. And I mean, they talked about everything. And there were things with extreme specificity. Some stuff was generalized, but you could tell they were leading in a direction, and then before things would happen, they would drop the bomb and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. Anyway, but what was the original? I'm rambling here, and I got off, you know, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, but what I'm saying is that there's things that I don't know and I can't verify, but if some of these nuclear options are really there, those are things of last resort. You don't want to do all that because there's collateral damage. And this is me talking. There's collateral damage. A settlement is the best thing for everybody. For everybody. You know, can you imagine these ACC schools, if there really is that out that's there and they do it, that you have an ACC where, let's say that this summer they trigger that out and you have 3 or 4 ACC schools playing a conference schedule next year even though they're not conference members? I mean, eventually this thing gets so chaotic. You know, it just gets to the point you just wonder who's going to have more mud on them when this is over. Isn't it ironic that the ACC has more or less hosed their members on money, and they don't want to take care of their brands and find ways to pay them extra to help them remain in the conference and be competitive, but at the same time stick a gun to their back as they're leaving and trying to rob them of all of their money just to let them leave the contract. Mm-hmm. There's just so much hypocrisy going on here. Yeah. And the simplest thing is, we'll write you a check for $150, $175 million. We would have done that weeks ago. Okay? I mean, why do we have to be going through all of this so that you can get
What's a couple $100 million?
Well, I mean, it's just like...
Are you willing to write a $500 million check?
Well, we already talked about that a week or two ago, that the ACC, by their own valuations of the GOR, of the grant of rights, they can't expect $500 million if it only goes to 2026 football season. Yeah. There's not enough money there to expect that. You can't value it to 2036 when you don't even know that it goes there. And I know, and again, I'm not disputing anybody else's opinions, but it's not good business sense for ESPN to let all of this go on in the courts and let everybody just twist to the wind for another year when they could have just picked up the option.
Kerry Gold Knowles says in the chat, the ACC wants to make it $300 million minimum to keep other teams from pulling out of the conference. I think there's a lot of truth to that. The ACC's goal is, Phillips has got to protect the conference. He's got to make it basically that number has to be high enough for the Big 12 not to eat at the ACC's table, where it wouldn't do Pittsburgh, Louisville, Georgia Tech any good to write a big old $300 million check to get out of the ACC to go to the Big 12. So, I agree with Kerry Gold Knowles. It has to be if there's going to be a quick settlement, the number's going to be a bit high.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand to a degree, but there's also a point where you're asking public institutions to pay $300 million, which, not that long ago, you could buy pro sports franchises for $300 million.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's no. I don't think that dollar amount will ever be anywhere close to that. But again, we can talk, and I might, if I end up being wrong and ESPN picks up the option, so be it. As is, so be it. But it's just, it doesn't make any sense. Why go through all this? Why go through everything else when they could have already done it? They could have already done it. And it just doesn't make any sense. So will there be a contract with the ACC? Yes. Will there be, there'll be other business dealings in the future. But again, the reason realignment is happening is because they want it to. And they just don't want to be seen as the ones doing it. But moving forward, I am looking forward. I think I've told you this before, looking forward to Leon County because, man, stuff FSU's alleging the ACC has done is National Enquirer type, stuff. And
well, we're going to be covering it live April 9th, PATC.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But no, don't think I have my tinfoil hat on because I understand that rumors are only rumors. They have to be. They have to have some fact and something. There's a bit of a trail you can follow to validate things, but.
Got it.
The ones doing the talking, they've always been right in the past. That's what's got my attention.
Got it. All right,
Have a great day.
Appreciate it,
Always
JD.
enjoy your show. Thank you, sir.
Great call. Great call by Mr. Seminole JD. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button and get your notifications opened because we can come on live anytime. We came on live here, breaking news. This was not planned. We weren't going to do a live show tonight. But breaking news, Mecklenburg County, Judge Bledsoe denied parts of the motion to seal by the ACC. He ruled in favor, ruled against. Part of it's going to be unredacted. The unredacted parts, the new unredacted parts of this 160-page whatever document, ESPN ACC agreement, has to be in public view, released for public consumption by April 15th. Now, all of it is in the all the pages of the documents is in front of Judge Bledsoe. Some of it he's deemed is still going to be sealed. Some sensitive parts he He basically acquiesced to ESPN's argument on this. But some of it's going to be unredacted, and some of it, I think there's still going to be a story to be told once we see that. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. I want to thank everybody with their generous donations, incredible comments in the chat, a lot of disagreeing with each other, but that's okay. As long as you respect each other, that's good enough for me. And of course, the great phone calls. We're gonna wrap it up. We've been on the air for 2 hours, over 2 hours, and we weren't even gonna go on live. So if you missed our show, if you just popped in, go rewatch at the very beginning of the show. Breaking news. Today was a good day, I believe, for Florida State and Clemson. A little bit of a victory, some movement in Mecklenburg County. So what does that foretell? Bigger movement in Leon County and Pickens County when it comes to those judges ruling if they find jurisdiction, if the venue, if Judge Cooper of Leon County believes that the case should be held in the state of Florida and Leon County, if he does that, does he rule that even more of this ESPN and ACC agreement becomes more open to everybody to take a look at? Very interesting. Interesting days ahead. Remember, keep your head on a swivel, hit the subscribe button, open up your notifications. We could come on live during the weekend. We come on live at least once, most weekends lately. And then next week, we got a whole bunch of stuff going on in college football. And we'll get back to our doing a spotlight team every day heading through here, late spring football. It's exciting. Not too far away from the start of the most exciting football season in my lifetime. Expanded playoffs, 12 teams. Holy smokes. It's going to be exciting. So buckle up, brace for impact. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.